I'm Max Sterling. Welcome to LARPgasm. Today I'm going to show you how to do some magic, and this is something that can cross genres, and depending on what type of game you play, it's something you may want to work into your character. Now, if you wear a hat, or if you have a hood, or a cloak, or a mantle, or any sort of type of bucket or cauldron or something that you carry, then something like this might be fun for you to do. If you play rogue or a thief type character, it might be something interesting to do in a pocket or a sleeve or something, and that is, of course, spoiler alert, to make a false bottom in an item. That way you're able to retrieve items from inside. So that way I can show you good folks how to pull knife from a hat. Now, of course, we need to make the magic hat first. So what I have is a piece of fabric that I found that's very similar to the hat itself in the inside. And you're going to want to make sure that you get this piece of fabric and cut it basically, big enough to fit down inside. And from there, spoiler alert, again, it's pretty simple to make that false bottom. So there's lots of ways to do this. You can do a band on the inside, you can hot glue it, you can sew it, but you just have to be careful that it doesn't show on the outside. So you'd want to make sure that, if you have a ribbon or something running around it, that it's concealed. If it's inside a hood or something, you might be able to do a stitch line. It might not be a big deal. But for this hat, what we're going to do is glue it, and I'm going to use fabric glue because we're dealing with fabric. And we want to pick an item, say like a rabbit, and we'll lay that in there to sort of get an understanding of how high this is going to be in here. Okay. And then once we have a good understanding of where this needs to sit, what you want to do is test it on to make sure that it's not going to interfere with sitting on your head. And the same goes with cloaks or hoods or mantles or anything like that also, because you want this to work, but this is also going to be flexible, so if your head does brush up against it, it's not going to be a big deal. And as long as you have soft stuff in here, then probably, it's just going to sit on top of your head. This is something that you will need to sort of preload before you show it off. But for right now, let's go ahead. We'll cut this a little bit closer to a circular size, and then I'm going to glue this in here, and it's pretty simple from there. I figured I'd save you the boring parts, but now we have our false bottom in the hat, and from there I made myself a little scrap. Now I don't have much of the fabric, so I had to make myself a little strip out of some scraps that were left and some glue. You could also sew it if you had the time or wanted to. But we need to cut a slit in this. Now, there are a lot of ways to make a device like this. This is a very simple way to do it. If you wanted to, that piece of fabric that's in there, you could make sure that it is matched perfectly to the hat. If you had some sort of pattern as opposed to black in there, it may be easier to sort of make people lose focus when they look into it. You may want to just stick with black but have exactly the same type of fabric. If you have some sort of particulate, like something you would sprinkle on minis when you're making miniature terrain, or something you would use to repair furniture with, and you can get all the seams in there perfectly covered with some spray glue and that stuff, and you could make this look completely flawless. You could use Velcro on the edges, you could use rare earth magnets and cut the inside of the hat and embed them in there so that this whole inner piece comes out, and you could palm it and put it in your sleeve. But it's LARP. It depends on how far you want to go with this, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that. You can get outrageous with your creation on this and really push the limits of your imagination and make it so that it's a flawless performance that you could perform in front of an audience. But if you're doing it at LARP in a dimly lit room, this is going to be just fine for you. So we'll go ahead and cut a slit. Now you could cut the slit on the edge or the side. I'm actually going to do the slit right down the middle just because that's going to be easy. And as far as how big you want this to be, you want it to be big enough to produce whatever you're trying to produce out of it. And of course for this I'm just using a razor blade to cut it. So once you've cut the slit down the middle and put that little trap door on it, then you have an empty magic hat and you are ready to perform magic. The only thing you need to do is to preload it with whatever you're planning to do. So we're going to pull this little bunny out of the hat. So we're going to go ahead and push it down inside here. And then of course we're going to make sure that we use the little flap that we put in there to cover it up, because we don't want anyone to see it in there. And once you've done that, empty hat, abracadabra, watch me pull a rabbit from my hat, right? Ta-da! So, cool magic trick, but besides kids' parties, what value does this have to me as a LARPer? Well, let me tell you something. If you play a game that is steampunk, you're already probably going to have a hat like this anyway. So I would say this is almost a given that you would want to do this with a hat in a steampunk style game. Now, maybe you play a pirate character and you have a tricorn hat, or some sort of other hat. Maybe you have a Joker's hat or a Jester's hat or a gnome hat. I could see this being perfect if you wore a pointy hat as a gnome for some reason, or anything along those lines. Making a secret compartment. It's fun for these interesting little magic tricks you could do at the tavern to maybe earn some coin or just impress your friends, but also practical value. Maybe you're a thief or a rogue. So let's say you got your empty hat here, maybe you're a pirate. Well, hey, instead of pulling a rabbit from your hat, why wouldn't you just pull a bag full of coins from your hat? Right? Maybe that has more value to you than rabbits. Or let's say you're some sort of sick weirdo, and maybe this is where you keep your fertility goddess that you made. Well, I think that these are all good examples of the magic hat in use. Now, very easy to make. If you make one, please let me know. I would love to see what you come up with. And as I mentioned in this video, there are lots of other ways to do this. You could do it so it's much better looking. This took me probably about 10 minutes to create. Now, if you want to use hot glue, fabric glue, that's fine. If you're sewing it into a hood, you could stitch it in. If you made the hood yourself, then you have free reign over how you do this. You could put the slit in the side, you can Velcro it, whatever you want to do, and you can make it look seriously legit. I mean, good enough to do a stage performance. But if you're just looking for something fun to do at your weekend game under dim lighting, possibly outside in the twilight, then this is more than enough. If I can pull this off under this bright lighting, you can definitely do this in a darkened tavern. But like I said, the real magic is don't let them get too close to your hat, don't let them see too much of what's going on, and of course never let them inspect it after the fact, because they're going to see that slit in there. But a pro tip I would give you is, if you are making it yourself, or even if you're doing this, add that slit of fabric, add that little door under the slit before you glue it in or whatever you're doing, and make sure it's very long to cover up whatever you put in there, even if it bulges out a little bit. And to take it a further step, you may even want to just put a bag that is secured in there, like I said, with magnets or something, so that way when you pull whatever it is out of the hat with your other hand, you could be palming the bag, and then that way when you reveal the hat, or if you do want to give it to someone to inspect, it looks completely legit, because the only thing you have is in there somewhere hidden is a magnet that holds that bag in place with whatever lightweight item you have. But those are some pretty advanced concepts. I leave that up to you. Make yourself a simple prop, have fun at your game, wow and amaze people, show them a little bit of real magic instead of fireballs. And if you like this video, please check out my Patreon, please check out my Ko-Fi. There's links all over the place for that stuff that you can click on, whether it's a one-time donation or a monthly support. Those all go to help make these awesome videos. But more importantly, please let everyone that you know I'm here making these videos. Share the videos, whatever groups you're in, sites you're on. Let people know I'm here making this awesome weekly content. And, you know, please click like. Obviously, subscribe if you're not already. Click the little bell icon. And, of course, as always, adventure on. The ending of this video was filmed in one continuous shot. Yes, magic.